game changer for me in mindset. And then also working with business coaches or peers, people in your group, like they talked about. If you're gonna start some kind of business, it doesn't matter what kind of business it is, what you wanna do is actually get with people that are doing that successfully already. You're gonna have a lot of ideas. I talk to a lot of people and they'll say, man, this is, I'm gonna be the greatest XYZ company. That's great, but what does that actually mean? So you wanna think about, where do I wanna be in 10 years with this business? Where do I wanna be in 5 years? But then you actually need to have a plan. And a lot of that plan is gonna be, what the second book I touched on is scaling up. So the Verne Harnish scaling up is how you take that from ideal all the way and scale that up. What you need to do is, you need to make a list of all the tasks you have to do during the day for your business. And your goal is to remove yourself from as many of those tasks as possible. So if at first you're gonna be doing everything, so reading books like that is a start. If possible, some people are, well, I want to start a business one day, not today. Go work for a business like that, and just be honest and upfront with that owner. Hey, I'm going to give you 2 years. I'm gonna work really hard, but I want to start one of these businesses one day, not to compete with you necessarily, but I want to start a service-based business. I want to start a technology-based business. I want to start that type of business. Go in there and be a sponge. Do whatever. Work all the different roles. Because one day, you're going to have to hire for those roles. And you'll need to know, is this person doing a good job? Are they putting in the effort? Are they doing these items? And again, you're going to have a standard operating procedure, what's called an SOP. If they're in marketing, this is all the tasks they need to do. Here's where you measure, are they good? Are they doing a good job, bad job, okay job? And then when is it, hey, we need to make a change here? That person also needs to understand that, because often in your mind, you're going to have an ideal of what you think this person should be doing, but they aren't mind readers. So you can say, hey, I want you to do marketing for my business. Well, what does that mean? If they don't have a background in that, they don't know. They might think, hey, I'm just going to get on social media and post a bunch of things all day long. I'm doing a great job. I got 5 likes today. That's not going to drive your business forward like you want it, right, as the owner. What you would do as the owner is going to be completely different. So you need to make sure you have that outline. If you don't have that outlined in your business with standard operating procedures, you're not going to be able to replace those tasks yourself. So what you're going to do is you're just going to build you a job. Now think about, if you were to go get a job somewhere and they said, hey, we're going to pay you $5 an hour to run this whole business, and then at the end of the year, you're actually going to owe us money. That's what a lot of entrepreneurs do. They have an ideal, but they don't have a way to execute that, and they haven't found a way to actually monetize that. So as we go through here, we'll talk about that a little bit more. All that makes sense? Everybody follow me? So we're going to blend the scaling up and the 4-hour work week principles together, like I talked about in those 2 books. And again, those are the books I recommend you read if you're thinking about starting a business or just curious about business. So the entrepreneur dilemma, kind of what I just mentioned there. Most founders start with freedom but end up trapped in busy work. You don't just need a business, you need a system that runs without you. So that's again, listing all those items down, making sure that you have systems in place to run your business. Kind of like what you talked about with franchises. That's why franchises are real popular. If you run a McDonald's or you run Ace Hardware or something like that, when you open those, they're going to have all these standard operating procedures. You're not going to be able to deviate because they've proven this system out. Part of what you're buying is, hey, I'm going to open an Ace Hardware, or I'm going to open XYZ franchise. They are going to support you on the back end with those systems, and that your job is to do the due diligence and say, hey, look, this is really successful. They have a proven track record. I see where all the other franchisees owners are opening businesses, being successful in my type of market. And kind of like they mentioned, a Houston market is completely different than a Victoria market. So make sure you really understand how people make decisions around buying Also disposable income. You can see that the average income in Victoria is this, and the average income in Houston may be this in this area, like they mentioned Katy, Sugarland, or Metro Houston, what you call in the loop, might be 4 times higher. So do you want to open your business in an area where the income's 4 times higher if you're a brick and mortar and you depend on that? More disposable income to buy your product. Or do you want to go open it in an area where they don't have as much disposable income? So those are all kind of things you want to talk about when you're looking at markets. So we're going to leverage these mindsets, and that's what you as an entrepreneur entrepreneur means, you're starting businesses, you're growing those, you're probably selling those, you're interested in that. I like to just use the term, business owner. Have that mindset as a business owner and what you're going to do to scale your business up. So you need to have that mindset. You need to have the mindset that I'm doing all these tasks, but my goal is to remove myself from many of those tasks because, as Claire mentioned, if she's not there to do those sketches, they don't get done, right? So you're not going to be able to do all this at first, but you need to have that mindset. And as you make that money, you need to reinvest that money in replacing yourself with someone that can do those tasks, or a system or automation. So the goals, we're going to build a machine. You got to think about your business like a machine. You wouldn't buy a car and only say, hey, we only need 3 wheels. How far are you going to go? Not very far. You might get part of the way down the block. Some people, they're really good. They can make that car with 3 wheels go all the way down the block. But they're never going to beat the guy with 4 wheels getting down the highway, right? He's always going to beat the 3-wheel car. So find your big ideal. What's your big ideal? They call this, in scaling up, call it BHAG, right? Your big, hairy, audacious goal, right? Like if you're Elon Musk, you're gonna make the civilization multi-planetary, right? That's like the big goal, like what you want to do. So if you're gonna run a service-based company, is it like, hey, my big goal is I'm going to have 500 employees and make this amount of revenue, and we're gonna be the best in this segment of the industry, right? So think about that. You want to have that big, hairy, audacious goal, and that's at the top of the mountain. Right now, you're down here. You haven't even started climbing, but you have that in sight, and that's going to be your goal, right? Just like if you're climbing a mountain, you're going to have to go up that mountain. And what's going to happen is you're going to start, but then there's going to probably be a 2 or 3 year period that's really hard, right? That's this kind of angle, right? You're climbing up the mountain, and then so your goal is going to be making all those systems that help you get up that mountain. So you want to start with the problem and not the product, right? What problem are you solving? I see some businesses on here: clothing resale, NutriBite, affordable healthcare, ready to go, microwave meals. Okay, busy people like me working on all that. Okay, they don't have a lot of time to cook at home. They want to eat healthy. Think about the healthy places to eat in Victoria. You got tons of fast food, right? So who's my market for that, right? Is it going to be the person that just wants cheap McDonald's every day? Probably not, right? So what's the pain point? The pain point is someone's busy, they want healthy meals, they want it easy, accessible, and at a certain price point. Maybe price isn't the most important thing, maybe it's the convenience, right? So as you craft your marketing strategy, you're gonna wanna look around that, like, okay, what problem am I trying to solve? Because if you say, hey, I wanna serve, affordable, healthy, ready to go microwave meals. Okay, what problem are we solving there? There's already tons of places I could go eat. Why am I gonna go eat there? What particular problem can you speak to that's gonna resonate with me? Ask what painful problems do people repeatedly pay to solve, right? So think about things in your life right now that you really don't enjoy, that if you had $1, you'd pay to never do those again. How many people would pay $1 to never do dishes again? Raise your hand. Okay, well there's one problem. You're probably not gonna go do dishes in people's house, but just think about things like that. So you're gonna validate all these ideals, right? Some people think, oh, I gotta have a perfect business plan, I'm gonna do all this, I'm gonna spend all this money for consultants, do all this stuff. That's great if you wanna, you do your business plan and frame out, maybe you're well funded and you execute that, or you, like I say, if you have a franchise, they're gonna help you with a lot of that. That's kind of the pros of a franchise, but also you don't have really control, right? You need to do things under the franchise method. So what you can do is validate these ideals, A/B testing, right? So you can run an offer for this. I'll do your dishes for $20 in your house. What? No one's buying. Or, wow, 100 people signed up, I can't do this. Okay, I'll do your dish to your house for $30. Okay, now only 50 people signed up. I'll do your dish to your house for $60. Wow, no one signed up. Okay, now I kind of know what the market's willing to pay for my price, right? Now again, you can't spend $1, right? You can make $1, how many people would pay $1 to have their dishes done in their house? How many people would pay $60? How many people pay $100? So those type of things, that helps you kind of see what the market's willing to pay. People will tell you all kinds of stuff, and that's the other thing, when you start a business, you gotta have facts, you gotta have data. So this kind of data, because people in your life will say, no one would ever pay $60 for someone to show up and wash dishes. But yet someone has a business doing that today where they're doing that, they're paying money, right, to do that. No one will ever pay it to do that. So if you've got those data points, you've done your market research and you've proven it out, again, you can run ads on Facebook for $20. So that's a way to get real world data, validate your ideal. Is it successful? So you want to niche down, right? Remember we talked about like this food business that's on here? If I just say, hey, I open a restaurant, or I'm doing prepackaged meals. Okay, great. How many other people in this town do that? So what's your niche? Is your niche, hey, I'm gonna go to your house and drop these off every Monday for you. And you'll have them right there on your doorstep. All you gotta do is take them inside, they're ready to go. And they're not frozen, they're in cool packs, right? Maybe they like that because the people don't wanna run and go pick them up, right? If someone that's used those services before, they're ready at certain times and these kind of things, and we're running a little late, we're doing all this, and you're trying to plan your day, like, I gotta get this because this is the food I eat, right? Or, not being consistent. Hey, sorry, we had an issue this week, we can't make these meals, or we can only make part of them, right? You can only do that. So if people are depending on your product, you have to deliver that. So make sure whatever you're doing, keep it simple, have a simple offer that's easy to understand, and niche down. We provide, for example, meal services for busy owners that don't have time to take lunch but want to eat healthy. And if that's your message, and then you put that on Facebook, you find business owners in your area, you send that out, you have your price point. That's really all it takes, right? So don't overcomplicate things. Find your niche and niche down, because that's going to make you different than all the other services out there, right? Now, if you want to scale that, you want to do 1,000 meals a day, maybe that's something else. But again, there's a reason McDonald's is very successful in what they do. And at the same time, if you go to Houston, there's people who pay $35 for a hamburger at a nice restaurant. That restaurant makes, $30 million, $50 million a year as well. Like, okay, well, they're just two different types of business. They're meant for different types of people. So find your niche. Again, define your core customer, brand, and promise early. So that's basically what we talked about there. So your freedom framework, that's going to be like we talked about. If you're starting this business, you're going to want to replace yourself in those tasks. So make a framework around that, like how you're going to do that. Don't just say like, well, I'm gonna do that. You need to actually have a plan, and you need to have those areas, right, that you're delegating out. Again, we're going to automate everything we can, delegate and eliminate. That's your genius. You have your ideal, but you don't have to be the one doing all the work. You can only scale that so far. So again, systems run the business, people run the systems. So systems run the business, people run the systems. So make sure you have that system. We're gonna document it, like we talked about, the SOPs. And then you're gonna define your goal, like what's my goal? If your goal is, my ultimate goal is I wanna spend 2 hours a day managing the business. I wanna have time to pursue my hobbies and things. Like they talk about, sometimes it's better, if you have a passion, sometimes you can kill that passion by making it into your job. Maybe it's better to have something that scales, can run automated, that will give you the freedom to pursue that hobby instead of making it your job. You're gonna validate it, like we talked about, Facebook ads, launching a way for people to make payments to you. There's so many systems now you can do that with. You got Stripe, you got Square, you got HubSpot. Those are very low entry points, cost-wise, to launch that. You can literally do that in a weekend. Speed beats perfection every time. Get to market and then improve it. Minimum viable product means that you're gonna have a product and offering and you're going to launch that. And that doesn't mean you can't change it over time, but you have to get the product launched. So many people, they sit around for 6 months, a year. Well, I just got to do this. I got to do this right. I got to do this. Meanwhile, the people who are actually doing the work are making the money and building their business. It's going to take you a good 3 years probably to get this business really profitable and those systems running themselves and things like that. Generally, the stats are that businesses are not profitable until year 2 or 3, right? And most businesses fail within the first 2 years. Almost 80% of businesses. So gather feedback. Like, don't listen to people that aren't buying your product. That's the biggest mistake people make. You'll have family, because they weren't successful, they'll just say, hey, that seems a little risky, just go get a job here, maybe safe to just, you're charging too much, you should charge less. That guy down the street charges less. So gather feedback from your actual clients. If those people are buying meals from you, say, hey, Bob, hey, we know you buy a lot of these meals. What do you like about it? What else would you like us to provide? And maybe Bob's like, I like this, but, I kind of have a guilty pleasure. I like desserts. Could you make something that's somewhat healthy, a dessert add-on for this? Well, how much would you be willing to pay for that, Bob? $8. Okay, great. Yeah, Bob, would you like to test that for us when we launch it? Great. So now you just added another revenue source from your existing clients, right? Now, if you ask someone, would someone pay me additional $8 for a healthy dessert? Maybe your family member's like, oh, I'd never pay that. I wouldn't do that, right? So they just killed your ideal, but yet, why are you listening to them? They're not buying anything from you, right? Track early metrics. You want to track all that. Like, when I make this offer, how many people are telling me yes, how many people are telling me no? That helps rationalize your price. You're going to have 4 decisions when you're scaling up. Your people, your strategy, execution, cash. That's what the 4 pillars is, right? If you don't have any cash, you can't really do much, right? So you need to have the people, you need to have the strategy, you need to execute on that strategy. If one breaks, growth falls. If you don't have money, you can't do the other things, right? You can't buy the products. If you're making meals and you don't have money to buy the product, you can't do it. So you need to make sure you're forecasting all that. You need to make sure you're charging enough to have the revenue to actually go and buy the product you need. So you're going to align the team, the strategy, cash flow around one core value and vision. You want to make sure anybody that's helping out, whether that's a third party, they all know your vision, right? So you're all doing things with the same vision. So you're going to hire slow. You're probably not going to hire. Nowadays you're probably not going to have the money to hire unless you have some funding, right, at first. But when you one day do hire people, you want to really do your research. Make sure that ideally hire someone who has a proven track record on what you need. You want to hire someone better than you at doing whatever you want them to do. If they're not doing that, you need to fire them quickly because they need to move on to another opportunity. If you're holding them there, they're not doing a good job, you're not helping anyone out. Get the right people doing the right things. So we have quite a few slides here. I'm just going to kind of pop through these for time, just kind of reflect on those, and I'll kind of get on some key points here. So A players, I hire A players. If you're a C at doing marketing, you really want to get that A player. You might not be able to afford them, but maybe you can afford a third party that's a player that costs a fourth of what it would bring in someone internally, right? And that team can scale your marketing up versus if you just have one internal marketing person, they won't be able to scale the business at the same rate, right, with the marketing. So your strategy, what's your one sentence for your strategy? Simplicity. Remember, keep it simple. You know, the confused mind doesn't buy, is the saying, right? I can tell you all these different things. I can talk about my business and all this, but ask someone, you know, hey, what problem are you having this problem? You know, like what problem can I help you with, right? This is kind of what we do. Is there any fit here? You know, make sure it's a simple offer. You know, again, we do your dishes for $60. Why us and why now, right? Why are you going to do this and why now? Why not 2 years from now? Why are you doing this now? Rhythm and habits, right? Every day you need to be doing this. You need to make it a rhythm, a habit of what you're doing. You're going to make them daily, weekly, and quarterly rhythms, these things that you're doing. Think about a song, right? You have the rhythm to the song, you need that with your business. You're going to track all these stats. What gets measured gets managed. So if you don't know how many people are taking you up on your offer, right, with that, you can't, you like, what is, define success, right? If you put all this work in for 2 years, what does success mean? You need to have it written down, right? That's going to be part of, as you climb that mountain to reach those goals. Your small, consistent actions, right? Like every day, there's a saying like, you know, if you're moving a foot forward a day, what does that look like, you know, a year from now, right? Versus trying to do that foot every day, you know, after a year, or a mile a day, right? If you put in a mile, right? You can walk a mile in one day, but think about, could you walk over 300 miles in one day? Probably not. So that's why it's important every day to make progress, right? Even if you don't see where you're moving forward, you're getting that practice in. So cash is the auction of the growth, right? You need to be making money. If you're not making money, business is about producing profits, right? So if you're not, you need to take a step back and realize, okay, why am I not? Do I need to pivot? So the oxygen of growth is cash. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is oxygen. Again, you know, if you make $100,000 in your first year, but it costs you $120,000 or $150,000, well, that sounds nice. Or maybe you made $500,000, but it cost you $750,000 that year, right? You're running a negative. So it's about the profit. Not all revenue is good revenue if it's costing you too much to produce. You want to have 13 weeks of cash, right? Projected, right? So you kind of know, like, so you don't all of a sudden check your bank account and it's Friday and you're like, oh, I have no money for payroll. Because you know what bills you had, you know you had to pay suppliers and you had to do all this. If you can't do that, then you're setting yourself up for failure. So fund the growth from operations, protect cash like it's a critical system, right? You need to have those reserves, reinvest that money at first back into the business. Automate and outsource what you can, like we talked about. And we're just go ahead and read some of these. I'm going to pop through them. We have a lot of slides. Scale with systems, not heroes. Manage by data, not emotion. Process, protect performance. Delegate outcomes, not tasks, right? So if I tell you, again, like with marketing, like I need 25 ideal client leads, right? Like what are the outcomes, right, that I want? Make sure you're doing that. Remember, people aren't mind readers. So you're going to give people ownership. You're going to give them those basic SOPs, but you're not going to tell them exactly how to do all those tests. I mean, you're not going to micromanage them. If you have someone that is, remember, that A player, they're doing better than you kind of need to defer to them. And again, if they're not working out, you know, you need to let them go. And again, define success. What success is. Not just the steps, right? Like every, you know, if you're going to do the marketing, you know, okay, what's success? Success is we close 20 client deals. this month, right? Success isn't that we posted 50 things on Facebook, right? Because you wanted to find outcomes of that marketing. So you want to build people in your organization to be leaders, not just people that follow, are afraid to actually take action and do things. So freedom through structure, right? That structure is going to bring you freedom in your business. It's going to allow you to buy back your time. You're going to have those rhythms, right? You're going to know what you're going to do during the week even before you have it on your schedule, because you're going to have that built in. I'm doing marketing this day. Doing sales this day. I'm reviewing my financials this day. And I'm going to just pop through these. I think we're getting a little low on time here. You just want to kind of look over these as are kind of, and again, this is all, if you read these books, these type of items are going to be in the book here. So this is a good one to touch on. Don't wait for Sunday. We're going to start this, we're just about starting a business. Like you said, okay, well, then actually work on it, start it. If you're, the excuses are, I'm too busy, I don't have money, I don't have this, all of those things can be overcome. If you need to work a job, a part-time job to do that, I mean, Damon John's famous for, to start a food, right? He worked at Red Lobster while building his clothing brand, right? And even when it was